how the Kurdish struggle via books and academic discussion. I have the possibility to meet the Kurdish people the first time in Diyarbakir in 2014. Later, I was in Iraq, but I was in Rojava exactly in 2019, 3 years ago. I was visiting Amuda, I was visiting Kobane, I was visiting another cities, and the most important is to see the struggle, especially the women struggle to defend the population in the Battle of Kobane and how you build a new system of the society. This is really incredible, and all this means dignity. Well, the most important is, first of all, in a world that people are thinking about the ethnic, their own community. What I found in Rojava was the Kurdish want to include all the other groups. They are not thinking only about themselves, they are thinking about all the humanity, first of all. Second one, the role played by women. The recognition of women is really amazing. I have visited another armed conflicts, another situation like Sahara, Western Sahara. I was in Palestine, in Burma, in Myanmar. And my opinion is that the role played by women is really amazing and a good example about the quality and inclusion. And last issue is related the vindication of the environmental agenda. It's not only, I know that there is a limitation to develop the agenda as long as, as far as the Kurdish people wanted. But anyway, to take into account in the public arena, in the agenda, the environmental issues is really relevant for the humanity also. Well, Rojava have different threats in the military issue because the army of Turkey, the army of Syria, continue in the same logic to eliminate, to discriminate the Kurdish people and the Kurdish struggle. But there is another issue relevant. One is the lack of recognition by the international community. It means a lot of responsibilities that has been assumed by the Kurdish people. For instance, how you coordinate the refugee camps will be better if the international community recognize the role played by the Kurdish people. And maybe for me, in Latin America, one of the biggest threats is the lack of information about the Kurdish people, or even the misinformation. I have here even experts, or apparently experts, try to join the Kurdish struggle to another agendas, to contaminate the agenda of the Kurdish people. For me, really important because the lack of information or the misinformation contribute not to support the Kurdish people or not to pay attention to this threat that we mentioned before. Well, I think that the biggest issue is that you not only try, you success. So when I hear the histories of the resistance and the success defending Kobani, or in general the different Kurdish region, it means that my feeling was the Kurdish are not only trying, another people are trying, the Western Sahara, the Palestinian, the Rohingya in Burma, the Moro people in Philippines are trying to achieve some results, but you got it. You got as a Kurdish, some locality power, some local power built in Turkey, the region, the federal region in Iraq, but the most important in Rojava, there is another model, more according to the needs, not only of the Kurdish or the other communities in the north of Syria, but in general, let's say that the agenda of the humanity in that way of the independence, autonomy, self-determination, use success. And for me, to visit Kamishlo, Amuda, Kobane was a great experience because you start showing to the world how it's possible to build a popular power, a real popular local power. And this is a big success. That's why you are, let's say, in the most ironical way, you are a bad example for the humanity. Yeah, in fact, yeah. I think that one of the biggest problems of Turkey is that it was built based on one homogeneous nation. In the other side, let's repeat, the proposal of the Kurdish people in Rojava and in other regions is to incorporate the minorities, to understand and to respect the other brother and sister as different, part of the other nations, part of the other communities, but living in peace. The Turkish origin was to create a homogeneous nation based on the theories of Ataturk. This has been part of the genetic information that Turkey has followed in several decades. It means part of the proposal is to destroy the differences, to destroy and to persecute the minorities. That's why the part of the solution is that the Turkish people themselves confront the power of the government of Turkey and has the capacity to fight for a multinational and multicultural country where all the people can be with the same rights and the same freedoms. Now, the expansion of Turkey, as well as the expansion of the other countries in the world, like the case of Israel or the case of Morocco, only contribute with instability. The biggest problem is that the Turkey is not alone. Turkey has all the support of the NATO, has the blessing, let's say, of the United Nations. It means for me, sometimes I used to say in international forum that the problem is that the Kurdish people are alone because there's misinformation, the huge power of Turkey, not only military but politically, and the lack of understanding, even from the Arab world, to understand and to respect the Kurdish struggle, made the situation difficult. I see that the best option has been the option developed so far, means to build popular institutions based on democratic principles. This is really important. I think that this is the most important and courageous message, but also to keep in one, let's say, in one hand, the rule of law and the democratic principles, and the other hand, to have the weapon. Is necessary, unfortunately, to defend Rojava and to defend some territories in Turkey as well as the other regions of the Kurdish community using the violence. It's not, as long as I understand, and I hope I am not wrong, is not the will to create the armed struggle. The armed struggle is not an option, it's an imposition in the way that the Kurdish people has the duty to defend themselves. That's why I have this discussion even with some pacifists, because they believe that all the armed struggle is just the willing of the parties, but not in the case, clearly in the case of the Kurdish people, is a need to survive. Means this combination between to make stronger and stronger the local capacities and the democratic principles, and the other to prepare in the case that you have to use again the weapons is on the table. And this combination is the way to survive as long as I understand the struggle of the Kurdish people. But there is two elements to take into account. First of all, the lack of respect by the so-called international community of the rule of law and the international agreements and the international principles. This is one scenario, again, where it's clear that the so-called international community has not friends, has just interests. They are not looking for the war in all the region in the Middle East based on principles or based on international law. They are based mainly in their own interests. And this explains double moral when they analyze the struggle of the Kurdish people. Part of this, or one conclusion or consequences of this double moral, is the lack of a clear policy to repatriate even the national people who was born and living during years in Europe. I remember when I was visiting one of the refugee camps in Rojava, I met people from Holland and Germany that was national Holland, Germany, living there, born there with passport and so on, and they refused to come back to their own countries, and they try to present a reason of security and so on. It means not only the lack of respect of international law, means I have a nationality, and as a national of a country, the country has duties toward me. This is one point. But also how many efforts, money, personal resources has destined by the Kurdish people to take in a good manner these refugee camps. For me, it was impressive to see how organized, but all the challenge to feed people, to educate people in different language, to guarantee the security, to respect the religious practice. It is a huge effort, but the international community can solve it, or at least make it easier, just reconsidering and repatriate their own nationalities. I think that is part of this lack of respect of international law, and to assume their own responsibility. The fact that thousands of people were fighting in favor of the Islamic State, the Daesh, is not because of the Kurdish people. The issue that there is a lot of refugee camps and IDP camps in Rojava is not consequences of the Rojava of the Kurdish people. It's consequences of the conflict that was fed for some of these countries, by the way. Well, for me, in general, the solution is already written. It's international law. But the problem is that they don't respect at all. Just to prevent any kind of genocide or practice close to genocide should be mandatory, should be obligatory by any country. And some practice of persecution against the Kurdish people, you can see clearly the intention to eliminate the community as such. Then it's not an exaggeration to talk about an attempt of genocide. When you talk about international humanitarian law, the respect of civilians, and some of the attacks has been committed. For instance, when Turkey crossed with the airplane and has bombed some refugee camps in Iraq, this is clear an attack against civilians. When the journalists and human rights activists have been persecuted in Turkey by the Turkish authority, is clearly a violation of human rights. Means the solution is on paper, but this is when the same like in another struggle of different people around the world, the problem is that it is not enough a paper. A paper will not save the life. The application, the implementation of the principle included in this paper is totally different than the paper itself. Then I recommend, with all my respect to the Kurdish people, to amplify international campaign to explain to people what means Kobani, what means to be Kurdish, what means all this struggle internationally. second one, to keep this principle of the democratic, I know that there is, as in all community tension, political tension, but it's part of the discussion of the democracy that should be done. And last one is like to demand in the international forum the respect of the self-determination and all the principles included in international law. I see that is another scenario where it's necessary the defend international law, not because of the paper, not because of the document, not because it was written in Europe, but because it's useful to protect civilians, even combatants, and communities like the Kurdish people. 1 second, please. Yes. Let me show. This is the cover of the book. It's called Kurdistan, the Dreaming Nation, between the war in Turkey, Syria, and Iraq.